UKMotorTalk.
Hello everyone and welcome to the UK Motor Talk podcast. I'm Mike, hi.
I'm Jim, I'm back and I'm on the ball.
I'm Graham, hello there.
And I'm Dave. Hey, it's how nice to see everyone back together again, and I do miss everyone when we're not all in the same virtual room. How have we all been? Are we recovering, Jim? Are we getting better?
Yeah, slowly but surely. My inspection hatch that they decided to slice in me is healing slowly but surely. But the most painful thing at the moment still is getting in and out of cars. 9 times out of 10 is alright. There's the occasional tweak, but it's we're heading in the right direction. And thank you NHS for undoing what was done in the first place. So yes, moving on.
Glad to hear.
Onwards and upwards.
Let this be a lesson that indeed not everything is if you're brave enough. How are you, Graham?
Yeah, I'm not bad. I'm still upright. That's in my book. That's lucky.
Excellent. I think you've been out and about. You've had a trip to the cinema this week, haven't you? What did you see?
I went to see the new Formula One film, which I think has divided people. I have to say it was in a local cinema, which is quite a small cinema, and it could have been very much smaller. Like they could have shown it in a phone box, and there would have just about been enough room for the 4 or 5 people that were actually in the cinema.
Now, from what I haven't seen it yet, but from all accounts, what I hear is it's actually quite good, isn't it? I think as long as you don't take it too seriously, it's not a documentary, is it? It's not a behind the scenes. It's to Formula One what Top Gun Maverick is to flying a jet plane, isn't it?
You have to remember all the time that it's a movie. It's a Hollywood movie, and it's a vehicle for Brad Pitt essentially. But there's more in there than I thought there might be. I was skeptical when I went into it. You know, I've been around a long time. I've seen an awful lot of Formula One movies. Most of them are complete garbage. I well remember James Garner pretending that he was a Formula One driver, given that he was 6'72". He would never have got in a bloody Formula One car anyway. But it was credible in places, but not all places. It was spectacular in places. Clearly, if not all, but certainly parts of it were written by somebody who does know their Formula One history, because some of the more spectacular accidents you can look back through relatively recent F1 history and say, oh yeah, that's that one.
Yeah, because I think there are a few criticisms of some of the accidents, as you say. I mean, the initial Sonny accident is Martin Donnelly's accident, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which, having rewatched that and looked back at a few pictures of that, is horrific, and it is staggering that Martin Donnelly's still around and had somebody looking after him. But I think the crash over the sausage curb at the final turn at Monza, I think loads of people say, oh yeah, well, as if, and it's like, no, that actually happened. They just changed the colour of the car that did 78,000 flips as it went over the catch fencing. And so that was just a real one. Somebody did that. There'll be somebody stood out there going, yeah, that's me, I'm in that.
Well, I think there were quite a few of the more spectacular accidents, but the other thing that amused me was reflecting upon the Austria Grand Prix recently and some of the rule-bending shenanigans that took place in that. And that is the essence of the way in which Sonny, the driver, gambler, etc., comes back into the sport after winning a number of other things, but not being in a Formula One car for years. But he comes then back in and pulls all kinds of chicanery on track to get the team some points and to get the other driver, who does indeed bear a bit of a resemblance to Lewis Hamilton, to get them to where they're going. A lot of the in-car stuff is very good. I mean, they've clearly learnt from Drive to Survive, but they've managed to do all of that without Gunter Steiner and the F word in every third or fourth word. And I think they've learnt a lot from that. Some of the filming is very, very good. Some of it is a little bit far-fetched, but it's an enjoyable story. And it just touches on a lot of things that are in F1, but of course... already a number of the people that are in the film are no longer in F1. But if you get the opportunity, go see the film. It is well worth seeing. And in the long history of F1 films, it's one of the better ones.
If it gets people into Formula One and broadens their horizons, much like Drive to Survive will have its fans who are maybe new to the sport watching it. I know there's several groups of people I know who don't watch Formula One but have watched Drive to Survive. So if it broadens the appeal of the sport and gets people into cars powered by a reasonable large percentage of internal combustion, even if there's a bit more electricity in them next year, then, hey, it's no bad thing, is it? The more eyes on Formula One and the more people watching it and the more people falling in love with cars and fast cars, well, all the better. So I'm all for it.
I did like the fact that Martin Donnelly gets a special mention. That was a bloody awful accident, and I remember seeing that when it occurred. And I remember talking to Martin not many months afterwards and being very surprised that he was mobile at all, albeit on crutches, but that anybody had survived that was just amazing. But he gets a slightly bigger part than does Lewis's dog Roscoe, who is also mentioned in the end credits.
Oh, quite right too.
was on screen for all of about 2 seconds, but they were. That was about the same length of time that some of the team bosses were on. The Toto Wolff cameo is screamingly embarrassing.
So, Formula One, it's been quite an interesting few weeks, hasn't it? Who's going to pick that one up?
Yeah, I was going to say, from the fiction of Formula One the movie to the fiction of Formula One the real-life sport, I mean, to be fair, there's a couple of real-life plots from Formula One that you could have picked that I think people wouldn't quite believe if they were in a film. But, it's been a bit turbulent for team bosses over the last couple of weeks, hasn't it? So Christian's gone. I mean, that's, we didn't sort of snap to do an emergency speculative podcast because there wasn't a huge amount of information forthcoming, was there? But it's now the dust has somewhat settled. I think I don't think any of us were surprised that it happened, but possibly surprised by the timing, I think. I mean, it's a sad way to end, I think. I mean, he was there from the very beginning of it being Red Bull. So 2005, so 20 years he'd been there, longest serving team principal by a long stretch. Some phenomenal success in terms of numbers, championships, wins, etc. for team bosses. He's right up there with names like Ron Dennis and Frank Williams. So he's gone about all that, built the team up, started it from the ashes of Jaguar's operation, turned it into an absolute powerhouse of Formula One. Had some ups and downs on the way and had some successful periods and fallow periods, but I think the general gist is it's been down to, I think, almost having or wanting too much control. But he wasn't, although he was CEO and team principal, he wasn't a shareholder, and I think there was disagreement from the Austrian side, which since the passing of Dietrich Mateschitz, he always just sort of said, well, there's a bucket load of cash, get on with it, win some stuff, and he did, and they all did. But a bit of brain drain and a bit of, passing away of Dietrich and leaving of a few other key figures, his sort of support network had been eroded. And but I think it's sad after 20 years and all that success to not have a swan song, not have a farewell tour, just a footnote of he's been relieved of his operational duties, goodbye. That's poor. That's not good.
It was a way to do it, basically. But I think the suits had it in for him. He just, as you say, with Dieter, his great protector, inconveniently passing over, the suits wanted him out. They wanted a greater degree of control over what was going on. And there were clearly the texts and so on, and I don't want to go too deeply into that. It's probably still sub judice, but I think a lot of that was not entirely straightforward and was some sort of corporate shenanigans to get him out, and it didn't work. So they had to do it by some sort of more brutal method, but to do so in the middle of a season, there we are. That's why and I often refer to it as such, it's why it's called the Piranha Club.
I think regardless of what you think of him as a personal personality, you cannot argue how unbelievably effective he has been over that 20 years. It's pretty incredible, really, what Red Bull have done. And even if you don't watch Formula One, you don't know anything about it at all, you will recognise a Formula One Red Bull car, wouldn't you? Red Bull Formula One car. And probably know who the drivers are, I suspect, because they have been just, over the last few years, just so prevalent at the top of the tables or battling to be up there. It is a real shame, as you say, just to sort of bin him off very unceremoniously and keep as an employee, bizarrely. Does sound very odd, doesn't it?
I think it's one of those things that they have to, because all the contracts, and including for the drivers as well, are written in such that basically all Red Bull have to do is pay you. What you actually do is then entirely up to them. So it was very easy to extricate Checo from driving the Formula One car, because if you're employed as a driver, okay, wonderful, your first assignment is pick up this VIP from the airport. You need to go to Heathrow at 6:30. Terminal 4, make sure you're in whatever time, arrive, greet them and drive them back. And that's it. So I think Christian Horner is at this moment still employed by Red Bull, of course. He has been merely removed from operational duty. So, again, it's sort of one of those, it's nice work if you can get it. He's earning a bit more money. I think his social media post at the weekend was riding around on a horse or something or other, so some different kind of horsepower. But yeah, I think, as you say, is what he'd achieved and what he'd done, his dedication is you absolutely cannot question it, because it's the first race he hasn't attended since he took over as team principal at Red Bull. It's the first race Red Bull have ever had without him being there, because he'd not missed a single one, regardless of anything going on, illness, outside commitments, family, whatever else was going on. And I do think as well it's worth pointing out that, divisive character though he is, and I think he plays up to the role of pantomime villain in Drive to Survive, and likes to wind up Toto and Zach for the cameras. He does it very well. I think it is worth pointing out that at roughly the same time this happened, and people occasionally take the mick and call him, horny spice, etc., because he'd separated from his wife and shacked up with Jerry Halliwell, former Spice Girl. It is worth pointing out that the mother of his children passed away at roughly the same time. So I think there's that didn't get much coverage. So I think there's timing on the point of Red Bull if they're going to do something like that whilst that's going on, as I say, especially after 20 odd years. So regardless of what he was or wasn't doing with pictures, the guy is a human being, and somebody he'd spent a lot of his life with passed away, and he'd lost his job, in effect, although he was still being paid, and, the mortgage isn't an issue. Everything he'd spent his life working on had been taken away from him, really. So, shout out, Christian. Well done. Thank you for and thank you for the headlines and the stories, if nothing else. But I've got a feeling it's not the last we'll see of him. And I did like Toto Wolff's comment over the weekend that somebody said to him, well, what if he pops up at the FIA? And he said, well, I hope not, because I'll be absolutely if he does. And I was in the or something like that had to get beeped out on the telly, as Andrew, our editor, has just beeped out in the podcast, no doubt. But I think it was probably Nico Rosberg asked that, because, again, shout out to Nico Rosberg. He was a menace to society at the Belgian Grand Prix. Very beige and very annoying, being the only driver to beat Lewis Hamilton to a championship over the course of a single season. Nico Rosberg from many different countries. He's what did he say to Jos Verstappen? So you said a year ago, we need Christian out, otherwise the team's going to just absolutely implode. So he's gone. So how do you feel? Oh, I don't have anything to say. Oh, you're quiet now, aren't you? Yeah, nothing to say. Yeah, come on. Yes. What?
Yeah, okay, hit me.
Careful. I was going to say, because Jos might start throwing hands any minute now, but I suspect Nico could probably run quicker than him. So
you're awfully quiet now.
Jos does certainly seem to be, I mean, as you know, he's a favourite of mine. Not. And he does seem to have aligned himself very closely with the suits, but also with one or two other people that I would have thought would have aligned themselves in a straight corporate fight with Christian, and that hasn't happened. Several have left, several key players have left, I think, rather than get caught in the battles that were going on behind the closed doors.
There was brain drain in the run-up to it, wasn't there, with, Adrian Newey, Jonathan Wheatley, Dan Fellows, and, several other big key well-known names. But I think in terms of the team, if you watch the video that somebody had taken of him announcing to the factory and the team itself that he was off, he still had the team. The majority of the men and women and boys and girls that travel all the way around the world and flog their whatsits off and, you know, miss out on time with their families and whatever else. And, you know, it's a huge dedication working in Formula One. The boys and girls at the real ground level who have to put in the graft to put these two cars on track, that I think they all still quite liked him and seemed rather upset he was gone. So he was obviously a good boss from that point of view as well.
I think he was a leader, and a very effective and successful leader of that group of people. And that group of people, but not the suits, will certainly miss him.
The meeting that was recorded slightly underhandly, shall we say, that's not the word to use, but the meeting that was recorded surreptitiously at Red Bull when he was allowed, and that was the word they used, to say goodbye to the staff, to address them when he'd been given the news that he was no longer required, well, certainly in the job that he was doing. That was quite telling. There was a lot of good feeling towards him there, and I don't think you could fake that. And I think everyone, regardless of what you thought of the man as a person, as a boss, I think he was well liked, and certainly brought success to the company and helped people keep paying their mortgages and put dinners on the table and sort of give them pride in their jobs. And over the last 20 years, I mean, we've been sort of backwards and forwards to Goodwood, Festival of Speed, and the revival for much of that time. And Christian was a regular. We used to speak to him very regularly because I used to cut a lot of his yes, no's, and ums and ers out of the interviews, and he was a prime one for his yes, no's and on his answers. So
look,
you're welcome.
Yeah,
you're welcome, Christian. But so I'll always have a bit of an affection for the man, just simply because I used to sit there and listen to a lot of what he said, and he was always quite interesting once you cut out all the ums and ers and the yes, no's and so on.
And me for the same reason that he was always accessible, certainly in the early days. In the last 2 or 3 years, last few years, he was a little more difficult to get at, but for most of that 20 years, he was very accessible, more so than most. You know, I can only speak as I found him very easy to deal with.
And I do think it's not the last we've seen of him, is it? He'll pop up, possibly Alpine, I think, because they're on the lookout for this week's team principal. I mean, I had my 2 days as team principal a couple of weeks ago, actually, and it was very good fun, I must admit. So, maybe Christian will pop up there for a couple of weeks or so. Although putting Flav and Christian together, that's possibly a recipe for... Yeah, lots of misconduct, allegedly. But hey, they get on and they'd probably have fun whilst they were doing it. So, we shall see. I think he's possibly too shrewd of an operator and got too much experience not to pop up somewhere else. And, you know, he's taken a team from not a lot into world beaters. So, I don't know, I think Alpine could do with a bit of that, couldn't they? So,
but do you want a 20-year plus career of success tainted by an association with somebody like Flav?
Handle with care.
We all know what he's done and what he was banned for, and I'm just amazed he's back in Formula One. But
you're not the only one. Even I know that, and I pay fairly scant attention these days. One thing I did hear, and this I think has sort of gone by the way now, but there was a rumour that he was going to be slotted into Ferrari to try and sort of perk them up a bit, because they haven't had the most, how should we say, joking aside, the most stellar start to the season. I know
Flav or Christian?
No, Christian. Christian was rumoured to be heading that way, and of all the teams that could afford to buy him out of what must be a very nailed-on, lots of clauses, you'll have to pay us many, many euros, pounds, dollars, or whatever, name your price, to get him out of a contract. Ferrari are going to be the ones who have got the fairly big pockets in order to do so, but that does seem to have gone quiet now, but that was being touted around at the time.
I'm not sure about Christian at Ferrari, because is it possibly what Christian has done better is that not startup as such, because it was, there was something resembling a Formula One team there, but build up, expansion, change, recruit, that kind of thing. And I think the fact that Jonathan Wheatley has proved effective at Sauber, soon to become Audi, is his experience of watching that happen and seeing how it was all done. Are Ferrari willing to, or able, or would they, you can't imagine Ferrari saying, oh, we've built a new facility, we've moved to Derby or Milton Keynes,
Derby.
It doesn't quite make sense, and there's the Ferrari way of doing things which I don't think will ever change. So I think the best way of making Ferrari successful is having a French guy in charge of it who sort of shields the team from all the other going on outside it. And I think Fred, he's not had long enough there, and I think probably Lewis and Charlotte might find themselves wandering off if Fred wandered off as well. So yeah, I think those rumours have gone away. That I think just on commuting times and whatever else, Alpine's been the most likely route. So he could probably get a bit of skin in the game there, which he'd missed out on. I think he maybe sees, a built-up Red Bull over 20 years into world beaters. Toto inherited Mercedes from Ross Brawn, and the ashes of the Brawn team kept them as world beaters after a couple of years with Mercedes money, but has a bit of skin in the game and is now a billionaire out of it. Christian's a wealthy man. He's not going to be struggling to pay his mortgage even when his Red Bull paycheck stops in a year or two or whatever it is. But he's not Toto Wolff levels of rich, is he? Whereas actually a bit of stake in Alpine and it will keep him in cello cases and whatever else for the rest of his life, won't it?
I think there's a certain amount of satisfaction that Horner will probably get by proving himself again by dragging someone up from either lower down or mid-table and proving that he could do it with more than just Red Bull or Red Bull Junior
Cadillac,
team.
Maybe. Cadillac, are they too far advanced and having signed people up? If they've obviously got their game plan, but they would be perhaps the obvious, like you say,
I think so as well.
Scratch.
You could see a logic to that, and coming back briefly to Ferrari, certainly the interview that I saw with Lewis is very clear that he's very, very tight with Fred, and suggested that Charles was as well.
Yes.
So I cannot see a situation where either of those drivers would be happy to see Fred booted out the door, because I think he's doing the best he can to improve things. But he has the drivers on his side.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. I know Lewis has been, sending off a few letters to various people in Ferrari over the last couple of weeks about what to do with the car for next year and how to develop it and whatever else. And I think if he can get the car in a window that he likes and he can feel it, the Belgian Grand Prix itself, the sort of, yes, let's start under the safety car and run around and it's a bit wet and then let's get going. And all of a sudden the sun's out and they're all on slick tyres. As Max was quite right, we're losing these classic wet races. It was one of them. It's the Belgian Grand Prix and it was hammering it down. And it was a bit of a boring race, wasn't it? There wasn't a huge amount going on. But the most spectacular thing to watch was Lewis charging through the field on a damp track, and it was drying, and he looked like he was having fun and drive the day, and he had a bit of a spring in his step when he got out. And that's if he can get the car in the right window, then I think it's game on for Lewis. He's not a 7-time world champion for nothing, is he? It's and at the top of the charts, we've got Oscar and Lando, and I think Lando's peaks are still that little bit higher than Oscar's, but Oscar is far more consistent with these slightly numb cars. So I think it's that if next year's cars have got a bit more feel and a bit more just rawness about them, then Lewis can be right up there again, no doubt about it.
I quite agree. I think he deservedly won Driver of the Day award. Was it 11 places, 12 places through the field? But then he shouldn't have been in 16th position anyway, and I would still contest that perhaps people needed specs who decided that his best lap had to be deleted for track limits.
It was all four wheels off the track, so yes, it kind of did. But
it was pretty marginal. But then maybe I was looking at the wrong camera at the wrong time.
The stewards have. But again, this is where there does need to be a bit more transparency. When you have goal line, eagle eye, whatever it is for tennis or football, on or off the line, over the line, whatever. In Formula 1, but the stewards have got a camera angle. Well, can we see it then? Because then it's obvious. Oh no, you can't see that. Okay, well, what do you do? Oh, just trust me, it's fine. It's that, heads or tails? Heads. No, sorry, it's wrong. You lose. Well, show me. No, I can't show you. And it's okay. We did, yeah. But more consistency would be good, or more transparency would be good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So we'll move on from a slightly dull, damp Belgium, if there ever should be such a thing, onto another classic track, Hungary. Which I think Lando needs to pull his finger out and get on with it, and just stop mucking about. Really, if he's going to have a run into the championships. But the good thing is, at least the drives are free to race, and I think McLaren are so far ahead of the competition that I think they could, well, based on the fact they've got more than double the points of the team behind them and we're just about halfway through, well, they probably could just crash into each other every race and McLaren would still win the Constructors, so they're probably okay.
Certainly Zach was very clear they can carry on racing each other. There are no
and good for them. Good for them.
Yeah.
It is good to see. If you're going to have a dominant team, you need two drivers so closely matched at the front scrapping away. I mean, it's such fine margins for pole position every weekend. And, marginal calls in the race that do it. As I say, I think Lando's peaks are just slightly higher, but not quite as consistent as Oscar.
Showing my age, perhaps, and deferring to that, I was sort of idly thinking, well, I wonder which one's Prost and which one's Senna.
I would say Oscar is Prost and Lando is Senna.
Yeah, I would go with that.
I mean, yeah, the helmet colours kind of match as well, so yeah, we're not far off. But from the McLarens at the front of Formula One, we've got another famous name in the world of McLaren, Mansour Ojjeh. His collection of McLarens is being sold off, isn't it? I mean, they're all in the rather fetching shade of orange. What I did notice was a shame, though, was that it said apart from the F1... the P1 and one other, they are all delivery mileage and unused. Well, hang on, the picture I saw, it had a bucket load of cars in it, and he's only driven 3 of them. I mean, that's a bit of a shame, isn't it? But
indeed, it is.
It's quite the collection.
Driven. I think we need to clarify first that he was never a member of the Ojjehs. That's an entirely different Philadelphia sound thing. But he was... almost one of the founding fathers of McLaren, but certainly his financial involvement was very, very long and very steady. But he was an incredibly wealthy man who had a collection of McLarens which are unequaled by anybody.
I think it was, which ones have you got? And I think the answer was yes. Because I think he had all of them, didn't he?
Including one that was specifically built for him. I mean, I don't mean just his colourways or whatever. The car was constructed in the way that he wanted it constructed, which I don't think they do for anybody else, but hugely influential, very, very wealthy. I thought it was interesting that it was Tom Hartley Jr., who suddenly is becoming a major player, that, he was commissioned to sell these cars. This is the man that just recently sold the entire Bernie Ecclestone collection at one go. And we'll go back to Red Bull because it was the son of the Red Bull founder who has actually bought the entire Bernie collection, I believe.
Blimey. There's money in taurine influenced drinks, aren't there?
Certainly are.
There's a lot of people, a lot of students and a lot of people getting up early to go to work are helping to pay for this. And I know I've been there. It's amazing. I'm just looking at it. I mean, Tom Hartley Jr. has been in the business since he was almost a fetus, hasn't he?
Long time.
Studying under the master of Tom Hartley Sr., who taught him well, evidently, because he's done very well. I mean, all of these cars, it should be said, are the last off the line as well, pretty much, for the most part, aren't they? I mean, particularly just the first one, just that you come to 1998 McLaren F1, the last F1 road car ever produced and one of the lowest mileage examples in existence. That's not just a very nice house in the country. That's a very nice town in the country, pretty much, isn't it? It's remarkable.
That's almost a complete country, a small one.
Yeah. Well, yes, a small place in the Atlantic.
It would be very nice if that collection were to be sold in its entirety and perhaps go into a museum, but it would be nice to see some of them used a bit sometime. I suspect the collection would be broken up because there aren't many people, I think, could afford to buy into that entirety. But then, as I understand it, Bernie Ecclestone's collection will be the basis, be the foundation of a museum to be built by Red Bull in Austria.
Well, we can only
hope, this space.
Yeah, it would be nice, Graham. It would be lovely to see all these things together because, they've obviously been the passion of a man who was instrumental in the fortunes of McLaren and helped them get to the position where they could manufacture these things in the first place, starting with the F1. And now McLaren are as well known these days for being a manufacturer of expensive sports cars as they are for these days, again, winning races, which, as a lapsed Formula One fan and someone who still has a real affection for McLaren, with them being our local team and all
just
that,
down the road
it's lovely.
From you.
Well, exactly. It's lovely to see them at the front again, and I very much hope that Mansour's legacy is commemorated appropriately. I mean, certainly financially it will be, but it would be good for it to all stick together. I think realistically you're right, Graham. I don't think it is going to go to one home, but then again, Red Bull, deep pockets, you never know. So should we put that with the Bernie stuff? We can just build an extra wing on the museum, stick it in there. It's what he would have wanted. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, can you imagine Red Bull, in inverted commas, buying McLaren's biggest collection? That would be controversial. Or who could crop up and be like, it is me, and who would annoy them the
Ron
most
Dennis.
that they bought? It would
Ron
be. It
Dennis.
probably would be Christian Horner, somebody at Red Bull. Yeah, Toto Wolff. He's got enough money to buy it all.
But he's probably got more sense than to want to do so.
It would be nice to go along and just sort of have a cheeky bid, knowing full well that you'd be outbid. But it was a bit like the recent auction for number plates, and the new record breaking number plate, the most expensive plate in the UK ever, is rather appropriately JB1, and I think it would have just been nice to go along the auction and just casually bid £500,000, because you're not going to win it at £500,000, believe it or not, for a number plate, but just to feel like Billy Big Whatsits for a couple of seconds would be quite nice, wouldn't it? You imagine if they said going once, twice. No, outbid me. Oh. Dave, outbid me. No, I don't want it. It's your initials. No, please outbid me. Who's going to outbid me? I don't care. Outbid me. Sold. Oh, dear. Right. Run away. And that's it.
Going once, going twice. Where are you going?
That's it. I'm literally going.
Just out of a door flapping and running.
Declare yourself bankrupt
starting.
Immediately.
Yes.
I was only joking.
And speaking of auctions, if you want to have a look at a different auction, there's a rather good video to go along with our most recent podcast. So if you're having a little browse around YouTube, have a look at UKMotorTalk pretty much ever, and there's a rather scenic video of a rather nice country heist and Graham having a wander around just sort of gawping at a few cars. So much as we are an audio formatting podcast, things like auctions do rather lend themselves to videos quite well. Well, it's probably time we park this car up like you park an early 80s hatchback on a terraced house street with no power steering, isn't it? Properly and first time, otherwise you get in everyone's way. So let's park this up well and say what we've got coming up over the next couple of weeks. We've got auctions that we won't be attending or buying anything, but actually but slightly closer to home, we've got the British Motor Show, haven't we?
We do, at Farnborough, 15th, 16th and 17th of August, which is, a bit of a favourite of ours, really. There's a good amount of variety there. We've got some new cars, we've got some old cars, we've got some future cars, and a bit of everything in between. So it's well worth popping down and seeing what that's about. And you get to see loads of millionaires and billionaires land in their private jets whilst you're there as well, which is just an added little slice on the side. So yeah, something we're going to look forward to. We are going to be slightly late with our next podcast because we are going to be there, to be honest, rather than editing this for you to listen to. But you will get to hear about what we've been up to when we have been there. So check out the British Motor Show, keep an eye on the socials. And I guess on that note, it's probably time for us to end. So thank you very much for listening to us ramble on once more. I've been Mike. Goodbye.
I've been Jim. Goodbye and take care.
I sometimes am Graham, and look after yourselves.
And I've been Dave. And I'd just like to point out for Patreons, don't forget to click on the words inspection hatch in your episode guide, and you will get some eye-watering bonus footage. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Don't be too brave.
UKMotorTalk, a First Take Media production.